your car too.
Let's go with the granny flag. Is that a Supra? Who did it? Come on. Dead white.
Hello everybody. We have a interesting first time little how-to today. We're going to be swapping the front end of this 92 Amigo to the front end of the 92 Rodeo. So basically what we're doing here, we got to remove the grill, the lights and the buckets, and the center part of this bumper. I've already bought all the parts off eBay for it. New chrome bumper and the new grill and the new lights, and I even bought the pigtails that we can cut off the wires and wire on the headlight sockets. So first things first to come with this is obviously removing the grill, and I have more of these clips. I suggest you buy more before you mess with it because they always tend to break. So you push these little tabs up like this, and you can see that one's broken. Okay, and same with down here. These down here, if we can reach them, we're going to pull this out, and then we're just going to use our Phillips screwdriver, and I'm going to take the headlights out first, these 4 Phillips around each corner of the light, and then we're going to remove the buckets, which are welded in back here, I believe. Yeah, they're actually welded in, so we're probably going to have to, well, that one's welded in, that one's got a Phillips right there. Maybe this one's just missing. Okay, so whatever. Phillips, yeah, I can see the Phillips back in here. So we're gonna remove the light, the bucket, bracket, grill. And the bumper will be a bit different. That's gonna be a bit bigger. Should be able to unbolt it from hopefully down in here somewhere. We can get a hold of it and unbolt it and get it off, but we'll get to that in a second. So let me get the headlights and this grill off real quick and we'll go from there. So that was simple enough. Just a couple Phillips screws. And I've already found the 4 bolts. Take the bumper off because we got to switch this middle part. Get to that in a second. So I held the light up. And these are the new lights. And where these scratches are is where this adjustment screw was hitting. So we're going to have to drill a hole there so that screw has somewhere to go. The top mounts look like we just have to drill a hole in the radiator support and bolt them on. That won't be a big deal. I'm hoping the bottom will be the same once we get a relief for that adjuster screw to go in there. If not, we'll have to drill it and maybe space it out a little bit, but this looks pretty bolt on so far. So far I'm pretty impressed with it. I think it'll go pretty quick. I'm gonna have to do something about these horns that were just randomly screwed up here like that or whatever. I don't know, we'll figure that out. But anyway, to the 4 bolts that hold the bumper on, 14mm socket. There's 2 on this side. Don't drop it on yourself. It is iron, it's heavy. There's the other 2 that are broken loose, and she should come off of there. And so sure what I think, actually the more I look at it, was a Isuzu. No, they weren't that nice. I was hoping they might have left another dog, because there's a dog there that holds that part on, but I was hoping they might do like they did the radiator, so it all comes off pretty easy, but I still think it will. It looks like we can probably take both of those bolts out and it'll hold itself on there, because the Isuzu's awesome. So that's what we're gonna try to do, but don't drop it on yourself, it is heavy. I know that anybody who may have watched any old videos with my other Isuzu would probably understand that I hate Isuzu, when it's so not the case. I love them so much. It was as I thought. The bumper held itself on with this dog that sticks out. Absolutely wonderful. So the next thing we're going to do, and the first thing on actually replacing parts, is we're going to replace this front top. Oh my god, we're going to replace the middle part of the bumper. And I've got a new piece of chrome, and we need to take out these bolts. They look to be what, a 12 millimeter, and there's 1, 2, 3, same on the other side, 1 here, 2, 3, and then we got these little ones that are what, like a 10 millimeter. They go all the way across that hold the lower valance on, so it shouldn't be much. We're just going to take these off really fast and swap this real quick. I don't want to mess up the alignment between the caps too much, so hopefully we won't. But that's the first thing we're going to do, is replace this piece and get this put back on the truck. That way we can align the grill, and more importantly align the headlights the way they need to be. So let's do that real quick, and then we'll get on to the more fabricated part, which is drilling holes and figuring out how to mount these lights to this old radiator support. So the bumper is on. Make sure you spend a little extra time making sure you get everything bolted in the correct way. There's a lot of bolts, and it took a lot to get it adjusted right so everything bolted back up to where it needed to be, but it is now bolted back on, and I have fully tightened it. I made sure to check my fender gap on each side, so I knew that the bumper was as close to straight as I could. So the next thing we're doing, since I don't have pre-drilled holes or anything, is I'm marking where to drill the relief hole for the adjuster screw there, and I've let the screw scrape the firewall as much as I can. I don't know if we can see back in there. There you go. You can kind of see where it's touching. I'm scoring it with the tip of a screwdriver. So we need to get that done first and get that relief hole, and I'm going to just drill a pretty decent sized hole there. I mean, there's nothing on the back end either side to hit, so I'm probably going to do a couple smaller pilot holes and then probably put like a 3/8 bit through it, give it plenty of room, and then we'll start marking for the bolt holes to bolt the headlights on. The one thing you do want to do before you get too far ahead of yourself, like I'm trying to remind myself, I want to get the grill out of the packaging and I want to hold it up to the front, and I want to use the grill to also help align the headlights, because everything needs to be lined up and we're kind of free fitting these. So after we get the relief holes drilled for the adjustment screws, that's the next step, is to get the grill and not clip it in but set it on here and check all the fitment and line it up with the bumper and the fenders and everything, and we'll align the headlights that way, and then we'll mark and drill for the headlight bolts. And that's why I wanted to line everything up right. Looks like the guesstimation on the headlights will be just about right. As you can see, I've got some 3-inch C-clamps or 6-inch C-clamps holding them on up there. Grill seems to line up good. The only issues I'm currently seeing are I don't have a hole here or here, and this one down here is hitting this front support. I don't know if it would be better to cut that off a little bit or try to bend this in. I'm unsure yet. I might try to bend it in some, maybe give it a little love with the hammer, see if I can bend that in a little bit. But the rest of this looks like it'll line up right. I mean, you can bear with me here as I think it looks pretty spot on. So I think it'll be okay to line it up with the side marker light here on each side and mark and drill the first top hole on each side, since there's the I don't know, the dog that sticks out and goes into the hole, or I guess it's a dowel that sticks out on the marker light that has a hole on the inside in here. Let's see if I can take this off and actually show you that what evil has begotten me. here. Very gently on that. Bear with me. Take this off. Oh my lord, if I wanted this stuff to stay on here, it would fall right off. It would literally fall right off. And I try to do it on camera and it holds on for dear life. So, you see that little silver fella? And it goes right in there. And then that top silver hole, bolt right into the top of that. So, gotta line it up. It's like this, nice and square. And I'm gonna mark, not this hole now. That's not this one, it's this one right here that we can't see. See it? There you go. We need to mark that and bolt that. And that'll be our first main bolt. And then underneath, we're gonna have to probably do some kind of spacer, I think. I don't think that needs to bolt solid, but I don't know. Now that this side feels better, I might have to work on my relief hole over there, because that side didn't want to touch, but it's touching over here. Maybe that's just my bad, and I'll have to look at that. So anyway, that's where we're at. Take extra time, spend your time and effort making sure these are lined up right, get everything drilled, and hopefully this should be basic bolt-on process. And now that I'm looking at this, I am going to get a hammer and I am going to massage that in. So we have marked and I've put a bolt in loosely, and so far I'm pretty happy with it. I have already hole punched, or center punched is the proper terminology, before somebody rips me like y'all tend to do. I know my lighting is shitty, before somebody else says that as well. Turn your frickin' gamma up. There you go, let it focus. See, I've already center punched those, and I put a little score mark on it so I can see them when I take the light off. That one's ready. And I redid the hole. When I say redid the hole, I mean I used a next size up. And you can see the hole, the relief hole that I have there. And now this light sits much better. So the light should sit perfectly flush up against the radiator support. If it's tippy, that means something is binding somewhere. So I can officially say this radiator support is the same as the later models. It just doesn't have the holes in it like the later models do. So you're gonna have to make your own holes and bolt it. So see, I've done here. I'm going to center punch. I can see here. Then I'm gonna mark it so I can see it. And this next one here, all these laser frickin' eyes I've got done, I still can't hardly see in the dark. And mark. Okay, last thing before I cut the video now, I got my my map gas torch, and I heated this up right here, and I put a 2x4 up against it and hit it with a hammer and bent this in a little bit, and now the grill sits the way it's supposed to. So let me set the grill in real quick and show you about what it's looking like, and I'll go over what my plan's going to do to mount it. And this should be close to done the more I think about it. The next pain in the ass is going to be the wiring. This is how it's currently sitting. It's not clipped in. I've taken the clips out of the bottom and I've only left them in the top because I can still get those out. And as you can see, when it clips in, I've got, and don't mind the horns that are dangling down there. I don't know what was going on with the previous owners and why they had it mounted. I've just got them sitting down there until I get a chance to remount them. I've got this set so this will just touch when it clips in. This one will go in, this one will go in, the one down here and the one over here will go in. Now the only other ones are these ones here. Now what I was thinking about doing is taking the clips out, and you can see this raised edge here that I'm touching. These parts I'm thinking about cutting off and drilling a hole here and putting a C-clip in here and a bolt. So it'll have two 10mm bolts with a C-clip that clips. As I was saying before this sumbitch rudely cut me off, I'm gonna cut these tips off and put a 10mm bolt and a C-clip onto the radiator support, and it'll be bolted be bolted on with 2 bolts and clipped on the rest of the way, and this thing should be done after that. Like, I mean, I've got to drill 4 holes, and there's another hole back in here that I might not do. I might not do the one back there, but you should definitely do the one back there, but I might not do it out of laziness, but I probably will. I don't know, we'll see. To be continued. And once that's done, it's wiring, and it's just 3 wires. All I've read on that is if you don't do it right, you get weird feedback, but I don't see how that's going to be a problem. It should just be wire them up and it should work, but we're going to see. So let me drill these holes, cut these ends off. I mean, if you're really good, you could somehow cut a square hole in here. I'm not really good. I guess I could drill a round hole and like use a file and square it, or I could just cut it off and put a clip and bolt, which is what I'm gonna do because that's easier. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'm gonna get to it. So that went almost according to plan, but as is everything, I dropped my 10mm wrench. It's not the socket, it's the wrench. And I had to take all of this out to get to the nut that goes down there. Now, as far as wiring, and here's the important part, and I did a lot of testing to get it correctly. So I ordered these pigtails just off of eBay. They're like $4 a piece. They're just Dorman pigtails. And this was the original socket. So, as it turns out, if you exactly wire it, everything that was in this plug right here, which was 2 wires, wires up to this wire right here. The middle one, which is 2 wires, wires up to this middle one here, and then this single wire on the end wires up to this one on the end. And it all seemed to work pretty well. Everything works well. I just butt spliced it together and taped it up. And since I couldn't actually reach the back, you have to take the fender off to put a nut on the back of the bolt back here. I just put a self-tapping screw into it, a pretty large one, and it holds it, and the lights aren't going anywhere. So obviously I've left the plastic on. I've got it all lined up where I need it, and the next step that I'm going to do is what we talked about with the grill, and that's cut those 2 ends off that go right here, and I'm going to get some bolts and screw those in, and we should be pretty much good to go on this project. I have cut the living shit out of my fingers and hands on the back of this bumper, which is new, and the metal is not as good as it was when it was made 30 years ago. The chrome probably won't last as long, but I haven't lost any 10mm, and I haven't cut anything off. So have a beer and celebrate, because we're almost done with this. And there we go. So these are the bolts and the clips that I talked about. Just popped a little hole through there to make sure it's nice and solid so it doesn't jig about. This headlight is still a little bit wonky, which I don't like, but I need to fix these horns better. I just bolted them back up, but I need to refix the horns, and I want to put some fog lights on it down here. Not a light bar like Jeep people, but just a 4-inch light back behind the lower valence. And when I do that, I got to take the grill and everything off, and I'll readjust that headlight a little less doo-woppy. But the logo was super easy enough. It was 4 bolts, which you can sort of see. I probably should have filmed it, but I didn't because I was too excited. It's just 4 screws that come off the back, and it just goes right back on. So that was easy enough. And it all clipped in where it was supposed to. Everything worked on just the way we wanted it to. Overall, this project was much easier, and I could have done it a long time ago, and I kind of regret putting it off this long. But there we have a 92 Amigo with the 92 Rodeo front end on it. And all we had to change were the lights, and the lights came with the buckets, the grill, this part of the bumper, and those two pigtails for the lights, and wired up. I think it was total about $250–300 for everything off eBay, and it was mostly bolt on, drill on. If you have some extra nuts and bolts laying around, you could do it too. So there we go. Thanks for watching.
Come on, boss! Come on! Yeah!